A car like this should not be able to do what it does.
A few years ago, I was in the market for a new car, and I wanted the most fun car to drive and use on the public road. Now there are a few essential ingredients to this. So number one, the car had to be small, it had to be lightweight, and it had to have skinny tyres, but crucially, not too much power. Because all of this makes for something that you can actually use and enjoy in the real world. So what did I choose? Well, I chose my 1972 Alfa Romeo Giulia Super, and to this day it remains the most fun car I have ever driven. But fast forward 50 years on from my little Alfa, and cars have evolved massively. This is the BMW F90 M5, and on paper at least, it is the antichrist of what, to me, makes for a fun road car. So in this test, I'm going to answer two questions. Number one, is the M5 actually any good? And number two, can you actually use and enjoy a 2-ton, 4-wheel drive, 600 horsepower saloon car on the public road? Let's find out, shall we? But before we do, I'm pleased to announce that Ashraf on Cars is now partnering with Hagerty. Now, Hagerty is a place run by proper enthusiasts like you and me to give you your fix in all things motoring. So if, like me, you've been bitten by the bug for old, interesting cars as well as the modern stuff, it's easy to lose a good few hours on the Hagerty website watching some minis being yobbed about or reading why the new Porsche 911 is best to drive in Bogo Carrera form. I'll be driving some very special cars on the channel, old and new, so if you'd like, please subscribe for the upcoming videos. Right then, what's that M5 like?
It is an absolute weapon, if you hadn't already guessed. Right, the fact that we've got 2 tons and 4 driven wheels and 600 horsepower and it's all being deployed to the road so effectively with so much agility and fun. A car like this should not be able to do what it does. The way this thing accrues speed is like nothing else I have ever driven. And do you know what? It makes it easy for the driver as well. So what have we got? We've got a twin turbocharged V8, we've got 4-wheel drive, and all these chassis systems, which we'll get onto later. And all of that is just purely designed to fire you at the horizon as fast as you want. And it just initially gives you so much confidence in the thing. A 600 horsepower car should not be this user-friendly and easy to drive fast. And that's a bit of a scary prospect for the average driver, but again, we'll get onto that later. So let's break the M5 down. So initially, yeah, you've got that motor. You fire it up, you get a really hard V8 bark. But inside at least, it sounds a little bit synthetic, like it's coming through the speakers. And the thing's obviously turbocharged, so yeah, I guess we're not getting intake bark really that much. But it's just so quick. It's just that competence. But yeah, the motor, being turbocharged, it has so much torque, 553 foot-pounds. And you really do feel that. You brush the throttle at any speed, any revs, and this thing will just take off. All that torque comes from 1800 RPM as well. But where the motor does leave you wanting a bit, yeah, it's probably noise, as I said, and response actually. For a turbocharged motor, this thing picks up really, really quickly, but it doesn't pick up instantly, you know, you've got a bit of a delay as the turbos wake up. You can just feel it filling its lungs a bit before it surges forward. It doesn't pick up and snap. But again, I'd trade that for the torque that the turbochargers provide, because this is a 2-ton car, so really you want it to be effortless. You want it to just accrue speed at a crazy rate without you even thinking about it, and the M5 will give you just that. And the performance it delivers, well, just have a listen to this. 0 to 60 in under 3.5 seconds. It feels like quicker to me actually with the 4-wheel drive. And all that power and torque is sent through an 8-speed ZF gearbox. And around town, this gearbox is really smart in that it relies on the torque. It's not downshifting all the time, making lots of unwanted noise. And because it's not a DCT, it's a torque converter in this car, it means that, yeah, when you're not pushing too hard, the changes are nicely slurred, they're nice and smooth. You don't make jerky progress. And again, it is just remarkable that a car of this performance level and this level of power is so user-friendly and so easy to drive at low speed when you're not pushing the thing. Of course, when you open it up, it becomes a different animal altogether. But see, right now we're just cruising along. The gearbox is in auto and it's just doing everything for me. The steering's nice and light, it's accurate. The car doesn't feel too big, it doesn't feel heavy. But that being said, when you want to swap cogs yourself, it is a torque converter, it's not a twin clutch, so there is a fraction of a delay. It's not absolutely on point, like it would be if it was a DCT.
But what happens when you want to unleash the wilder side of the M5? See what is hiding beneath all that boring usability stuff and that low-key exterior.
What's it like then? So we've got the straight line performance, you know that already. But what we have in the F90 is the ability to put that power down if you so choose. So you leave the car in four-wheel drive, and predominantly it is rear driven still, but when you get a little bit of slip, it will fire some power at the front wheels just to drag you straight a bit, and it does it really gradually. It's really nice in that respect, it's predictable. But depending on how much of a hooligan you want to be, there are modes other than the four-wheel drive mode, which we will get onto now. So first we've got four-wheel drive sport. And if you put the car in MDM mode, which is a calibration of the stability control that gives you quite a bit more slip than usual, the car feels rear driven right up to the point where you feel like you're getting a bit too much angle and it's getting a bit hairy. So there's a whole load of leeway in that respect. So if you're an inexperienced driver, you can really play with this 600 horsepower super saloon and get the rear out, and the thing will just protect you. But again, it is quite a lot of slip that it allows you, so you obviously need to be careful. It's not totally foolproof, but what you guys want to know about is that rear wheel drive mode. And that brings this back to an M5 of old, which is just an absolute hooligan. This thing, with all that torque and with that response, your right foot has a direct effect on the angle of the drift you want to pull. And the car is so controllable on the limit because it's such a long wheelbase. Breakaway is really gradual, and you've got that active M differential at the rear. But as soon as you get on that throttle, you feel it instantly lock up and hook up. And suddenly you are looking out of the side window. And it's dangerously easy in this thing, but it's always controllable. That's the thing. Everything happens in slow motion, it feels like. You can just get it sideways with one hand if you so choose. And you know what? That's the genius of the M5. It's this user-friendliness and this access to all this performance that I don't know if there's anything out there that can match it, to be honest. Because you've got Audi RS products which have always had this all-weather ability, but they've never had this crazy playfulness of the M5. And now the M5 has both, you know, you can stick it in rear-wheel drive mode and get some massive slides going and it's brilliant fun. Or if you want to cross-country really fast in challenging conditions, you can do, just stick it in four-wheel drive and the thing's secure and easy to drive. What about the actual chassis itself? Well, the M5 has stiffer front and rear structures compared to the normal 5 Series, and that helps it keep this really nice rigidity that you feel. There's a real feeling of strength in the car, and the suspension is allowed to work from that base and keep the car supple and controlled and precise. But really on bumpy UK roads, it's only usable in the comfort setting. You can use the sport setting. It's not totally bone-shattering, but you really want to be in the comfort setting because you get this suppleness that you really don't expect from the type of car this is. And it still maintains that precision. Of course, when you get to the very edge of grip and the limits of the car, it cannot hide the fact that it's 2 tons. But you know what? As long as you keep it below that absolute limit, this car has an agility to it that you just would not expect from a 2-ton, 5-meter long saloon. And a lot of that is down to the steering, which really is just point and shoot. It's an electric system, so There is a surprising amount of feel actually, but again, it's a little bit dead in your hands, a little bit overly light in the comfort setting. But the rack is fast, and you've got the suspension, you've got the support on each corner to really cope with that. So direction changes are quick and snappy, and the thing's just size through corners. But if you try to add a bit more weight in the sports setting or sports plus, it does some really strange things. So when you start getting crossed up in the car and getting it sideways or making fast corrections, there's a weird artificial weighting to it. It feels like a force feedback wheel on a PlayStation if you ever tried one of those. And it can feel quite dangerous actually, because the car's sort of stopping you from correcting it, which is a bit odd. So I've left it in comfort, and that allows me to correct the car as smoothly as I want. But when you do get the thing sideways, the rear axle location is really, really nice. There's stiffer bushes at the rear, so you have a direct connection with the rear axle when you get on the gas out of the corner. And that's a really nice feeling. You can just adjust the car and you feel exactly what's going on. But here's my point, okay? So I'm not really gelling with this car on an emotional level. And that's important, you know, for £100,000. You've got to really want an M5. And sitting here now, the fun I've had today, and for all its ability, I really don't want one. I don't love the M5. I don't know whether that's because of the 5 Series underpinnings. I'm sat in a 5 Series cabin, looking at a 5 Series from the outside as well. I guess that's just a trait of all super saloons, and the M5 in particular, from day one. But I don't really want one. It doesn't feel super special. But you cannot deny that the M5 just does everything, and it does everything so well. And it's probably the last of the breed. I don't think there will be another car like this, even from BMW themselves. Because I imagine the new M5 is going to be hybrid at least, or electrified in the future. I guess it's a bit of a swan song moment. But what a way to go out, eh? What a car this is.